airworthiness inspection is in my hands. Been about 2.5 years. Plane's done, and I couldn't be more excited. Thanks for Arnold coming out and doing this, and he gave me a few pointers, and I'll do those, and we'll go fly the airplane. Hello there. As you can tell from the intro, I got my airworthiness certificate. Really exciting. It's a couple days later now. I just want to kind of go over the process that happened while he was over here. As you guys might know, I used a DAR, Designated Airworthiness Representative, instead of the FSDO or MIDO. I used a DAR instead, and I'm glad I did. He was very knowledgeable, lots of experience with experimentals and type certified airplanes. Very professional and human at the same time, and just a great all-around person. Couldn't recommend him enough. Anyway, I just want to give you a brief overview of kind of the process, what he did, what he kind of looked for. He didn't verbalize everything, but what he's thinking, but kind of what I felt, how this went, and what the kind of things he told me I might need to do or recommend I would need to do. Nothing that was a showstopper at all, but just recommendations from his years of experience, and I'll take you along for the ride. The first thing he did when he got here was just a general, incredibly quick look over around the entire airplane. Make sure there was nothing that was grossly negligent in anything I did that would be a showstopper right off the bat. But that worked out well, and then we moved on to the paperwork. All right, he came over here, looked at some of the paperwork, and something that's very important was he wanted to see my aircraft registration, make sure that that matches the data plate that I have on my airplane. The spelling of the names have to be identical, has to be perfect. Probably make sure I have my IN number and all that looks to spec, and all my logbooks. And my logbooks have to have a certain saying in them that I'll read it verbatim, and he wanted this exactly like this. It says, "I certify that I have inspected this aircraft on 18th of May 2023 in accordance with FAR 43 Appendix D and have found it to be in a condition for safe operation." And then my signature, and then sign, print, and then my builder. And he eventually put a sticker when he got it the airworthiness certificate. But it's important, the safe operation. He emphasized that it's not airworthy as an experimental. It's for safe operation. Just that wording has to be just like that in there. And next, he wanted to go over the weight and balance form. So I had all those ready for him as well. The weight of the aircraft when I weighed it and what the scales had said at each location. My weight and balance for the first flight, the maximum forward CG, and the weight and balance for the maximum aft CG. So I showed him all that, and he looked that over pretty closely to make sure there was nothing that was grossly negligent in that or off in my calculations. So he took some time, looked that over, and from there asked a few questions, and then we started inspecting the aircraft. So before he got here, I had already taken off all these panels here. There's an inspection panel here, in the back, one on the other side in the back. I have two on each side in the baggage compartment. I took those out, which isn't part of the Zenith design, but something I had added for easier access when it comes to working on the airplane, changing out fuel filters, hoses, that type of thing. So I'd added that as well. And he also wanted the cowling off, so I took the cowling completely off, and he started looking things over. I'm going to show you one of the things that he found that I overlooked, I guess. When you push the throttle in all the way, it bottoms out right here, okay? When you look at the linkage here, not sure if that'll zoom in enough here, but anyway, I still have a little bit to go. Boy, not much though. So what he mentioned to do is to adjust this. Maybe if I have enough threads to screw this part forward just a little, or screw it out just a little bit. Again, if I have enough threads. Because what you want is this part to hit, the stop to hit before the throttle bottoms out. Another thing he had mentioned is my firewall pass-through. I don't think he minded the pass-through so much, other than what I used here is some baffling material cut up into little slits so my wires could pass through so they wouldn't chafe around the aluminum, this aluminum and this stainless steel, or steel anyway. And he thought, man, he put some red ETV is what he recommended to put around that in case I have a carbon monoxide leak, help that from getting in. Also, maybe some of that red ATV around the sides here as well. Just a very small fillet of that around there, just to seal up the firewall, which actually makes perfect sense. And the next thing he had mentioned is when you come inside the cockpit area here, your feet, I got some wires hanging a little bit on the lower side. They're not real low because there's quite a bit of room here. But like he said, if you get in and out of this aircraft, it's kind of a tight squeeze right in here as you get in and out with your feet. It would be easy to push on one of these wires here and just dislodge a bunch of wires and disconnect them and things. So probably a smart idea to maybe stow that up a little bit higher and make that better. There's something he didn't really mention anything about because I had done it already, but something to note: make sure you put your fuel grade and how many gallons you have in your fuel tank. I know he did look at that. And there's another inspection panel that I did open up for him. I believe on the Zenith plans they just have you rivet all this in place, but I might need access to that here in the future. And he did think this was a little bit snug for my rudder cables. Didn't actually measure it, but he knew one of them had a bungee cord to it, and I told him I believe that was the elevator that had the bungee cord connected to it. So I think that's the one he was thinking of, which is a little bit on the looser side. Still within spec, but on the looser side. All right, coming to the right side of the aircraft, you did look at the elevator control linkages and where the ELT is, another access point, along with my baggage compartment back here. And he actually loved this little part back here, other than, and I fessed up, I told him I knew it was wrong. I had it the wrong direction. And I told him I added these little guys here. Again, they look ugly as can be, for added security. This does close, and that gives a little quarter turn on these guys, and it locks it in place here. So again, add security because my mess up, but that went underneath the aircraft into the access hole, looked at all the control systems there, and gave it his blessing. So after he did his inspection with the mirror and a flashlight, looked everything over, and thought everything was satisfactory, we went ahead and pulled the plane out, and he did videotape me starting the engine. Wanted it to idle for a little bit, came around, looked at my engine instruments, make sure all those were working and functioning, and what engine instruments I actually had for this aircraft, and gave it up to about 3,000 RPM, make sure that transition of the engine was smooth during that point. And he did make a comment how smooth this engine was and how clean this engine installation actually is. And although I'm not sure he's totally sold on the conversion, but he did like the installation, how smooth the engine ran. He said, keep him updated on my whole flight progress and everything else. He's just curious, I think. And so I'll do that. But it went well. He gave me the airworthiness certificate, and we'll talk about that next. Okay, my airworthiness certificate. A little different than what I'm used to. I'm used to like a little pink form, and this is just a little printed out piece of paper that he gives me, and I need to keep that in the airplane at all times. And but what I would like to talk about is phase 1 flight testing and what I plan on doing with this. He did give me I got 40 hours and of typically testing the aircraft, unless you want to use I'm going to read this, task-based flight test program in accordance with the advisory circular 90-89 Charlie. That's the amateur-built aircraft ultralight flight testing handbook. So instead of doing the 40 hours, where I just fly in circles for 40 hours, to keep it in phase 1, I'm going to go ahead and try this task-based approach. And what you have to do is develop a plan of attack, and you're going to have a mission and a task associated with each flight. And you got to record that data with each flight and be very very organized with this. And so at the end, they want you to develop a pilot operating handbook for your specific aircraft. And so what that means is, as long as you accomplish all these tasks, and they will have those tasks for you in the AC 9089 Charlie, the basic minimum tasks they want you to accomplish. As long as you can do that, record it, and how long that takes you. It could be more than 40 hours, more than likely less than 40 hours with this simple aircraft. Maybe even 10 hours, I don't know. But as long as I can do that, document it, show I did it, and I can move it on to phase 2, which means I can start taking passengers and just fly it outside of the range that he gave me. He actually gave me 75 miles from Ocala Airport, which is almost like a small cross country for this airplane, which is incredibly generous on that scope. But anyway, from here on out, I'm going to develop a task-based program. I got with the EAA, and they have a handbook you can use as a guide, along with the AC 9089 Charlie. And I'm going to develop a plan of attack, and we'll keep you along for the ride during this whole phase 1 testing.